Hello everyone, my name is Pawan. I am from third year CSC. Today we are going to talk about some key concepts. Firstly, let us know what is a closure. Closure is nothing but an ability to remember the variables from its outer scope. Let us understand by an example. Here the outer function defines a variable count and returns the inner function. Here, the inner function remembers the count even though the outer function has completed its execution. That means, apart from remembering the variable from its outer scope, the closure also have advantages like encapsulation, which means it keeps the data private. Here, example, the count is a private variable. And another advantage is it preserves the state across the multiple functional calls. Let us understand this by executing this code node closure. See here, when a counter called for the first time, it returns the value 1, and when the counter calls for the second time, it returns 2. That means here the state of count is preserved by this counter. Okay, I think the concept of closure is clear. Now, let us understand about callback functions. A callback is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. It means it executes after some task. It is mainly useful for managing the synchronous operations. Here, the fetch data fetches the data after the delay of 1 second because we use the set timeout and set the time delay for 1 second. After this task executed, it calls the callback function here, which is a display data. Let us run this code node callback. Yeah, we can see that the data is fetched with the delay of 1 second, and after that, the callback function display data is called. And now let us see what is promise. A promise is an object that represents the result of an asynchronous operation. A promise generally has three states: one pending, fulfilled, and rejected. If we see this code, the fetch data function returns the promise if the success is true. Otherwise, it won't return the promise. And if the promise is resolved, the dot then message is equal to console.log message. This function will be executed. And dot catch. This will be executed when the promise is rejected. Let us execute this code. No promise. Here the data is fetched successfully because the promise has been resolved. Now let us see what is asynchronous and await. Here the fetch data returns the promise, and we also use set timeout to delay the fetching by 1 second, and the display data function has been marked as asynchronous, and await is used for stopping the or phasing the execution until the promise has been resolved. Let us execute this code. Now, 1 second. Yeah, we can see the fetching data is printed in the console after the delay of 1 second. That is 1000 milliseconds. The data fetched successfully statement has been returned to the console. I want to make a clear note that when to use the callbacks, when to use promises, and when to use asynchronous await. When we are dealing with the basic synchronous operations like reading file or fetching the data, we will use the callback function, which is most widely used in the older codes or older times. And when there is a requirement of handling the multiple synchronous operations parallelly and also the error handling, then we will choose the promises. And asynchronous await, asynchronous await, these are used to handle the promises efficiently and make the code readable and easy. We will mark the functions as asynchronous and use the await to phase the execution until the promises are resolved. In this way, we will be handling the promises by using asynchronous and await. Now, let us see the basic to-do list to understand how the closures come into play. Here, inside the to-do list, we declare the private list named to-dos and it returns the two inner functions, the add and list. And outside the function to-do list, we will create a variable called my to-dos, and by using the add and list functions, we will access the private list which is inside the to-do list. Here comes the play of closure, which means we will use these inner functions to access the private list. As the inner functions remembers the private list or private variables, even though the outer list has completed its execution. Now, let us see the extension of this template. Here, I have created a to-do list function. Inside it, I have declared a private list called all and also some methods like add to push the to-do items into the array and some more functions like mark as complete and overdue, due date, due later, and to-do display list. Here, what I have done is these all formatted to display in a manner like this. If the task or the to-do item is completed, we will mark as like this, and if not, we will be mark or written to the console like this. And by using this to string split, we will format the date from the string to the date form. And outside the function, I have declared a variable called to-dos and one function formatted date to format the date and today, yesterday, and tomorrow variables. I have formatted these based on the mathematical logic and I have added some to-do items into my to-dos list and I have written the to-do items based on the partition of overdue, due today, due later, based on the logic of the overdues are nothing but the task which are before today should be completed and the due today is the task which should be completed by the end of today and due later means the task which can be uh, completed in future after today. And let us execute this code and see. See, we can see here in the console, my to-do list is displayed in the console in the partition of overdue means the task is completed. This is yesterday's task which is overdue and today's task of parent and service vehicle where the parent is already completed, so we mark it as a complete and the due later which can be done after today or file taxes and pay electric bills, etc. So this is about some key concepts. I think everyone has understood about the closures, promises, callbacks, asynchronous, and basic to-do list implemented using the closures. Thanks.